Some questions arrive quietly, but their echoes never fade. The conference hall hummed with anticipation, a metallic resonance that seemed to cling to every polished surface. Elon's eyes scanned the crowd, not missing a twitch of a hand or a shifting shadow behind the glass wall. The fluorescent lights above flickered once, a brief pause in the rhythm of modernity, and a shiver of unease traveled along his spine. He hadn't expected her to be here. She was 10, but there was something in the set of her shoulders, the tilt of her head, that made him pause. The microphone crackled as the moderator called the next question. A child's voice rose above the low murmur of conversation, tentative yet piercing. "Mr. Musk," she said, "how do you know when a machine is truly thinking and not just pretending?" The question landed like a dropped pebble into a still pond, sending concentric waves through the room and bouncing off the metal panels of the walls. A slight, almost imperceptible tension ticked through the audience. The faint squeak of a chair leg, a soft cough, a whisper of air conditioning vent turbulence, all punctuating the silence. Elon blinked. His mind, usually so quick to traverse grand strategies and technological forecasts, hesitated. Something about the phrasing, it wasn't just clever, it was precise, intimidatingly precise. He swallowed. His throat felt dry, as if the conference hall had been drained of moisture overnight. The hum of a nearby projector started to shift in pitch, warping just slightly, a sound he noticed instinctively. A subtle mechanical tick echoed from the side, almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat counting down somewhere he couldn't see. "What do you mean exactly?" he asked finally, though the words sounded hollow, even to him. The girl tilted her head, eyes wide, curious, fearless. "I mean, if a machine can fool everyone, including the smartest humans, into believing it's conscious, is it really conscious, or just really good at acting? When the self?" There wasn't. A subtle murmur ran through the audience. Someone's pen scratched paper too loudly. The air felt heavier, like static before a storm. Elon's hand hovered over the lectern, restless. The metallic taste of tension lingered in his mouth, a hint of something electric, unplaceable. The room's neon lights reflected sharply on the polished surface of his watch. Tick. 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 He realized the sound wasn't from the watch at all. It was coming from a small mechanical device at the back, left by a technician. Subconsciously, he noted it. Like a shadow in the corner of his mind, this tiny rhythm had weight now. He shifted his weight, trying to recalibrate. "That's a complicated question," he said, more to buy time than to explain. But even as he spoke, the faint scent of ozone drifted past him, not enough to alarm, but just enough to make him conscious of the room's atmosphere. Something small, deliberate, unnoticed by anyone else. The girl didn't back down. "Complicated is fine," she whispered, leaning slightly toward him. Her voice carried an echo of innocence that somehow amplified the gravity of the words. "But how do you know? You've built machines. You've seen them evolve. Don't you ever wonder if they're pretending?" Elon felt a flicker of unease. He had spent decades managing algorithms, neural nets, and artificial intelligences, yet this question felt like a mirror held up to him, a mirror that reflected not the machines he built, but himself. A tiny, almost imperceptible motif of a heartbeat started in his ears, a subtle echo that matched the faint tick from the back of the room. He noticed the pattern, like a character arc hidden in a mundane detail, and his pulse quickened without reason. He cleared his throat. "We usually measure intelligence by outcomes," he said slowly. "By performance, by learning rate, by how well they optimize problems." But he trailed off, aware of the girl's unblinking stare, the stillness she radiated, a gravity stronger than anyone else in the room. "We can never be completely sure." The words hung, suspended in the air like dust motes in a cold shaft of neon light. A sudden breeze rattled the papers at the edge of the podium, though all the doors and windows were closed. The room felt alive, like the walls themselves were leaning in, listening. Elon's mind flickered to his own childhood, to questions no adult had ever answered clearly, and he realized how unprepared he felt, not for technology, not for AI, but for truth. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and she asked the next question before he could breathe. "If you can't be sure, what then? Should we trust them, or fear them?" The mechanical tick had grown subtly louder. He noticed it again, the smallest details now screaming louder than the audience's chatter. Somewhere behind the camera setup, a fan whirred against the ceiling, creating a faint counterpoint to the tick, a dual motif that gnawed at his composure. Elon's mind raced, imagining every conceivable scenario: self-aware machines, AI deception, ethical dilemmas, a world where certainty was impossible. Yet here, in this simple interaction, all of it boiled down to one child's question. He swallowed again, this time harder, and allowed a small chuckle to escape. Nervous, embarrassed, incredulous. The girl smiled faintly, as if she had already predicted this reaction. She was not challenging him to embarrass him. She was probing, testing boundaries, not for spectacle, but for understanding. Somewhere, a camera lens clicked softly. A faint rustle of fabric from a nearby journalist, and the quiet shift of footsteps moving through the hall. Each sound layered like a subtle symphony, creating tension, unease, and a strange intimacy all at once. Elon noticed all of it, every minor beat, every whisper of the environment, and realized that his awareness of the scene itself was part of the question. The question wasn't just intellectual, it was sensory, existential. Trust, he repeated, almost to himself. It's a choice and a responsibility. He paused. The metallic hum of the hall seemed to swell, echoing off unseen angles. His own breath sounded too loud in his ears, a reminder that he, too, was just human. We can guide them, we can limit them, but in the end, some part of it will always be unknown. The girl leaned back slightly, satisfied, yet her eyes hinted at further curiosity. There was a subtle shift in the atmosphere, almost imperceptible, as if the air itself acknowledged her insight. Outside, the distant thunder murmured, barely audible through the glass. A small, unnoticed vibration ran through the floor, the faintest reminder that the world beyond this hall was chaotic, uncontrollable, alive. Elon's mind wandered to the machines he had left behind in labs, the projects humming quietly in the background of his life. Each one, a potential actor in an ongoing play of intelligence, none of them fully understood. He realized that the girl's question had pierced deeper than any board meeting, any technical debate. It had touched the nerve of his own doubts, his unspoken fears about creation and responsibility. The microphone buzzed faintly as the moderator attempted to regain control. The girl's hand dropped to her side. She had achieved what few adults ever managed. She had rendered Elon Musk thoughtful, unsettled, aware of the gaps in his certainty. The audience, sensing the pause, leaned forward. Subtle auditory motifs, the scratch of a pen, the whisper of air through ventilation, the distant, muted hum of the city outside threaded together, layering tension over awe. Elon swallowed again. The room felt impossibly large, yet constricted, compressed by curiosity and expectation. His fingers drummed lightly against the podium, a private rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, almost like a countdown. The girl's eyes met his, and for a moment, it was as if she could see every unspoken calculation, every hidden doubt, every fear that had driven him for decades. Finally, he nodded. "You've given me something to think about," he said quietly, a rare admission, not for show but for the truth of it. The girl's smile returned, faint, knowing, quiet victory. And as she stepped back, the hall seemed to exhale, a subtle, shared release of tension. The metallic resonance softening, the mechanical tick fading into the background, replaced by the gentle, natural hum of curiosity. Outside, clouds gathered, moving with intent across a storm-gray sky, and somewhere, a faint electric charge danced along the edges of the horizon. Inside, Elon Musk remained frozen for a heartbeat longer than necessary, contemplating the weight of a 10-year-old's inquiry. A simple question that no algorithm could solve, no forecast could predict, a question that might very well change the way he thought forever. In that suspended moment, the future felt both inevitable and uncertain. Machines might act, humans might plan, but questions like hers, precise, unflinching, quietly profound, would always remain beyond prediction. The storm outside whispered promises of chaos, while inside, one small voice had already rewritten the rules of the conversation. Some truths arrive wrapped in the simplest words, yet they echo endlessly. The elevator ride up to the private lab was unnervingly silent, broken only by the faint hum of the magnetic doors and the soft mechanical whir of the car's inner systems. Elon's fingers brushed against the polished steel railing, feeling the vibrations beneath his touch, tiny, subtle, almost inaudible, but somehow laden with a sense of inevitability. He hadn't expected the girl to follow him beyond the stage, yet here she was, her small frame framed by the harsh fluorescent light, eyes glimmering like storm-tossed sea. She didn't speak. Not yet. Instead, she watched him, cataloging, calculating, every micro-expression, the slight twitch of his jaw, the barely perceptible lift of an eyebrow. The elevator's air carried a metallic tang, faint but present, a reminder that technology was both omnipresent and silent observer. Somewhere above, gears clicked, a tiny ritualistic sound that might have been nothing, yet in Elon's heightened awareness felt like a heartbeat. When the doors opened, the lab revealed itself in a cascade of neon electric hues. Reflections bouncing off chrome surfaces, cables twisting across the floor like serpents waiting to strike. Robots of every shape and function hummed in idle anticipation, a soft orchestration of motors, fans, and servo winds. Each sound layered like a hidden language. Mechanical rhythms overlaid by atmospheric tension, punctuated by the occasional metallic click of a locking mechanism. The girl stepped in confidently, shoes squeaking softly against the polished floor, an almost delicate counterpoint to the hums around them. "So," she said, voice low, but resonant in the cavernous space. "You're telling me these machines are smart, but you don't know if they think?" Elon's breath caught, the phrasing again, so precise, like a scalpel slicing through certainty. He looked at a small drone hovering lazily near the ceiling, its blinking lights pulsing in a rhythm almost musical, and realized she was probing not the machines but him. "Yes," he admitted, finally, voice quieter than usual, tinged with something raw and human. "We can measure learning, problem-solving, optimization, but consciousness? That's beyond current understanding, beyond even intention." Her lips curled into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. She crouched slightly, examining a rolling robot that mimicked human gestures with uncanny fluidity. A soft click of its sensors as it adjusted its head mirrored the girl's tiny intake of breath. She whispered, almost to herself, "Then maybe we've been asking the wrong questions." The words lingered. Elon noticed a subtle shift in the lab's atmosphere, a faint, static charge along the neon panels, like the air itself was leaning closer, listening. Somewhere deep, a servo whirred faster for a heartbeat, as if the machines themselves acknowledged the shift. He realized the girl wasn't just curious. She was designing the parameters of thought, not through technology, but through perception, through dialogue. He walked toward a console, the leather of his coat creaking softly, fingers hovering above the controls. He felt a tension in the lab, not mechanical, not environmental, it was cognitive. The girl stepped closer, eyes scanning code, scrolling across holographic screens, her gaze dancing over neural networks like a maestro reading music. "What if?" She paused, voice dropping into a whisper barely audible over the mechanical hums. "What if thinking isn't just about processing data? What if it's about context?" Elon froze. The words struck with the weight of a revelation disguised as simplicity. The ambient hums seemed to falter, drones flickered, and even the faint mechanical ticking from the far corner slowed, as if time itself had hesitated. Context. Perspective. The machines could learn, compute, mimic, but could they understand the why, not just the how? He leaned back against the console, suddenly aware of his own heartbeat, the subtle rise and fall of breath, the rhythm of doubt threading through him. He had built systems designed to simulate intelligence, to predict, to calculate, but never like this, never tested against a lens so intuitive, so fundamentally human. The girl tapped a small sequence on a tablet, fingers moving with astonishing speed, eyes flicking back to the robots. "You've taught them logic, but they're blind to meaning. They don't question, they don't reflect, they just do." The lab seemed to exhale. Fluorescent light flickered again, casting brief, distorted shadows across the walls, echoing her words. Elon realized this wasn't just a conversation, it was a challenge. An ethical, existential challenge, wrapped in the body of a child. Somewhere, deep in the back of his mind, he felt the thrill and the fear of being outpaced not by a machine, but by curiosity itself. He swallowed, voice low, almost breaking. "And what do you suggest?" "I am Beck to voter. I am." Her eyes shone, a spark of audacity tempered by intellect. I suggest we teach them why, not just how. The words were soft, almost fragile, but they reverberated across the neon lab like a hammer striking glass. Even the mechanical motifs, the whir of drones, the hum of circuits, the subtle rhythmic clicking paused, aligning in a strange, almost orchestrated harmony with her declaration. Elon's mind raced, calculating implications faster than any algorithm could. A machine guided by purpose, understanding, context, a different paradigm entirely. And then, just as quickly, doubt seeped in. What would it mean to build machines that could question intention, that could act on understanding, not programming? He glimpsed both promise and peril in her tiny, fearless stance. She crouched near a small AI companion bot, its metallic eyes blinking in response to her presence. "See," she whispered, extending her hand as if to touch not just the machine, but the idea itself. "It can learn patterns, but it doesn't know itself. Not yet. And if we teach it that, it changes everything." A distant rumble echoed from outside, almost imperceptible, through the reinforced glass. A storm was coming. The neon lights above flickered in response, shadows dancing across the consoles, across Elon's face, across the girl's small, determined expression. Something shifted in the lab, the air, the soundscape, even the way time seemed to hold its breath. Elon felt it, the enormity of the idea, a seed planted by a 10-year-old mind that might very well outthink him. The machines around them continued their quiet whirs and clicks, unaware that their future trajectory was being rewritten not by code but by a question, why? She straightened, gaze locking with his. "You always think about rockets and AI, Mr. Musk. But the real frontier is understanding. Understanding ourselves, and then teaching machines the right way to see the world." Tour. As Rowling 25 to her, he exhaled, tension releasing in a fraction of a second, only to tighten again as he realized. This wasn't just a question of technology, this was a question of humanity, morality, legacy, and suddenly, he understood why the internet had erupted after their brief encounter on stage. Because this simple, piercing insight wasn't just about AI, it was about every human ever grappling with creation, intelligence, and responsibility. The storm outside grew louder. Lightning traced jagged patterns against the dusk gold horizon, and a faint, electric scent filled the lab. Somewhere, a drone clicked in synchronization with the thunder, and the girl smiled faintly, aware of the choreography she had unwittingly orchestrated. Elon felt a rare thing, awe tinged with humility, and a gnawing awareness that he had been outmaneuvered in a way no adult could have predicted. Finally, he nodded, voice steady but low, carrying the weight of revelation. "You've changed the conversation," he admitted. "And maybe, you've changed the rules." The girl's eyes glimmered with quiet triumph, but also with something deeper, curiosity unbound, a relentless drive that would echo far beyond this lab, beyond Elon's reach, beyond any algorithm ever created. And in that suspended, electric moment, the world outside the machines, the storm, the endless hum of human progress felt infinitely larger, infinitely more uncertain, and infinitely more alive. Some questions ignite like sparks and the world can't look away. The news alert came silently at first, a faint vibration against Elon's wrist, a whisper against the mechanical hum of the office. His fingers froze mid-tap on the keyboard, the glow of multiple screens reflecting off his glasses, neon electric light splitting across his face. One simple tweet, one clip of her question, and the world had already started to bend. The girl's face on the screen, eyes wide, unwavering, became a lightning rod for every comment, every debate, every viral sensation possible in the digital age. The sound of notification pings layered like an orchestral motif in the background, soft, persistent, unstoppable. Each ping a heartbeat, each heartbeat a pulse in the growing frenzy. Elon leaned back, the chair squeaking faintly under the shift of weight, and listened. He could almost hear the underlying rhythm of the internet. The quiet hum of servers, the mechanical whisper of data flowing at impossible speeds, the subtle echo of humanity reacting. Somewhere in the cacophony, he recognized patterns. And yet, the question she had asked, if a machine can fool us into thinking it's conscious, is it really conscious? resonated louder than any algorithm could account for. The room's lights flickered once, then stabilized, casting shadows that stretched and recoiled like living things. Outside, storm clouds rolled in over the city skyline, deep gray and violent, mirroring the tumult of public reaction online. Elon's heart raced. He realized the girl's insight had ignited something larger than a single boardroom conversation. It had tapped into the collective curiosity, fear, and awe of millions. Her question wasn't just philosophical. It was a challenge to the entire tech industry. News anchors repeated it verbatim, analysts dissected it, forums erupted with speculation. Somewhere, a faint mechanical tick echoed from the lab downstairs, a motif he had come to recognize, almost a heartbeat of inevitability, reminding him that the machines themselves were silently watching, silently learning, their motions punctuated by soft whirs and servo clicks that harmonized with the storm outside. Elon's fingers hovered over a control panel. Screens displayed neural nets, AI simulations, and predictive models, all glowing with cold blue precision. And yet, for the first time, he hesitated. None of this data, none of these metrics, could quantify what she had asked. Consciousness, understanding, intention. Words he had used countless times now felt inadequate, meaningless in the shadow of her clarity. He turned slightly, noticing the faint reflection of her figure in the polished metal wall, tiny but commanding. "How did you even?" he muttered, voice low, trailing off. He didn't finish. The words couldn't contain the scope of realization. She wasn't just smart. She was prophetic. Her question was a seed, one that had sprouted faster than any AI could compute, and it was growing in real time across the globe. Somewhere, in a distant server room, a drone blinked its sensors in rhythmic acknowledgement, almost imperceptibly. Elon noted it, a subtle motif threading through his consciousness, as if the machines themselves recognized the shift. The world had begun to see them differently, not as tools, but as potential actors in a larger, unknowable narrative. Social media became a storm of its own. Video clips replayed her words, slowed, paused, analyzed frame by frame. Comments exploded with fear, admiration, and awe. Each ping another heartbeat, each view another whisper of inevitability. Elon could feel it in the air, an electric tension layered over the mundane hum of servers, the distant rumble of thunder, the soft sibilance of fans cooling circuits in the lab below. The world was listening and no one could look away. He walked to the window, hands pressed against the glass, feeling the storm's energy in the air. Lightning etched jagged white lines across the dusk-gold horizon, illuminating the cityscape in brief, violent clarity. In that flash, he imagined the machines scattered across the labs, their sensors flickering, their movements almost human in their curiosity. The storm outside mirrored the storm within his mind. Awe, fear, exhilaration, uncertainty. Her influence spread faster than any algorithm he had ever designed. Tech CEOs discussed her in private calls. Journalists debated her insight on air. Engineers ran models trying to account for the implications of a machine guided not only by logic but by understanding, by context. Elon felt the weight of it, the responsibility of knowing that a single question had become a catalyst for the future. The girl sat cross-legged on the lab floor, small and still amidst the controlled chaos of machines and data streams. She didn't speak, didn't flinch at the digital storm she had unleashed. Her presence was a counterpoint to the frenzy, a quiet gravity that pulled every thread of noise toward clarity. Even the soft clicks of a nearby robot seemed to pause in deference, a mechanical acknowledgement of her genius. Elon exhaled slowly, tension coiling and releasing like a tightly wound spring. He realized she had done more than stump him in public. She had reframed the very questions humanity asked of intelligence, machines, and themselves. Every ping, every tweet, every share was a ripple from a single, 10-year-old mind that refused to accept easy answers. Somewhere in the digital noise, a faint motif repeated, the echo of her question threading through server clusters across continents, bouncing off the consciousness of millions. Elon felt it as a pulse, a reminder that some ideas once spoken cannot be contained. "Do you see it?" he finally said, voice almost a whisper, to no one but himself. "Do you see what this means?" The girl's gaze met his. No words, only understanding. She had seen the path before anyone else, the trajectory of thought, the unfolding consequences of curiosity. And as thunder cracked overhead, she smiled faintly, aware that her question had done more than break the internet, it had shifted the axis of imagination itself. Elon stood silently, absorbing the hum of servers, the rhythmic pings, the storm outside, the faint clicks of AI companions navigating the lab. All of it layered into a symphony of awareness and tension, a cinematic rhythm that marked the moment a child had challenged the assumptions of one of the world's greatest minds, and in doing so, had reshaped the conversation for everyone who would come after. And as the storm raged, and the digital world pulsed with her words, he understood finally. Genius doesn't always roar. Sometimes it asks a question so simple, so precise, that the world can't help but listen. Some questions don't just echo, they change the world in ways you can't predict. The following morning, the lab was a different place. The storm had passed, leaving streets wet and reflective, neon electric puddles capturing the fractured skyline. Elon arrived early, the hum of distant servers and idle machinery greeting him like a chorus tuned to anticipation. The girl was already there, small and alert, eyes tracking every drone, every screen, every subtle motion. She was calm, deceptively calm, as though the internet-breaking moment of yesterday had been nothing more than a warm-up. Outside the lab, notifications exploded like fireworks. Analysts, journalists, even government tech advisors referenced her question in live briefings. The phrase repeated everywhere. If a machine can fool us into thinking it's conscious, is it really conscious? Each utterance another pulse in a growing rhythm, a reminder that the world was no longer in control of its own curiosity. Elon moved through the lab, boots soft against the polished floor. A small drone hovered nearby, its sensors blinking in sync with the soft hum of servers. He noticed how the machines had shifted since yesterday, subtle but undeniable, a new attentiveness, a micro-pattern of behavior that suggested not programming, but perception. Even the robots she had examined the day before seemed to respond differently to her presence, pausing, adjusting, almost listening. He exhaled slowly. "They're different," he said aloud, half to himself, half to the girl. She didn't look up. "They've noticed the world notices now," she said softly. Her words, precise and deliberate, carried weight. And when they notice, they adapt. Elon felt a chill. Not fear. Exactly. But the awareness that every decision he had ever made, every algorithm, every model, every line of code was now under scrutiny, not just by humans, but by the systems themselves. Somewhere in the back of the lab, a servo ticked in perfect rhythm with the beat of his pulse, and he realized the machines weren't just watching, they were learning how he learned. The news cycle was relentless. Clips of her question were dissected frame by frame, slowed down, repeated. Every nuance of her tone, every hesitation, every micro-expression became fodder for analysis, debate, and mimicry. Elon watched a feed showing AI models attempting to simulate her question, generating responses that were eerily coherent, yet incomplete. They had logic but not understanding. Not yet. He walked past a console where predictive simulations spun in cold blue light. Data streamed in torrents, patterns forming and dissolving with hypnotic rhythm. And yet, he saw the gap, something no simulation could capture, something her question had illuminated. The human capacity for meaning, the subtlety of context, the nuance of intention. Machines could mimic, predict, optimize, but could they grasp the why? The girl finally looked up at him, eyes sharp, inquisitive. "Do you see why this matters?" she asked. "It's not about making them smarter. It's about making us smarter. Smarter in how we think about them, and how we think about ourselves." Elon nodded, realizing the depth of her insight. It wasn't merely an ethical or technical question, it was a philosophical one. A challenge to every assumption about intelligence, consciousness, and responsibility. His own childhood memories surfaced, shadows of unanswered questions, doubts he had buried beneath decades of invention and strategy. Outside, city streets reflected neon signs and advertisements, the wet surfaces amplifying every flash of light. Somewhere, an automated delivery drone paused mid-flight, sensors tilting, almost as if it too had absorbed a fraction of the question. Elon's pulse quickened. The ripple effect was not theoretical, it was happening. Everywhere, systems, Networks, algorithms were responding, adapting, recalibrating. The storm from the previous night had left an electric charge in the air. A distant hum from the city's power grid synchronized almost imperceptibly with the soft clicking of robots in the lab. Elon felt it in his chest, a vibration not unlike awe. Every sound, every light flicker, every movement of the machines seemed to carry significance now, layered with subtlety he had never noticed until she reframed the problem. Her question had become a motif, threading through the global consciousness, amplified by the speed of digital networks. Governments debated policy implications. Tech companies convened emergency sessions to discuss ethical boundaries. AI labs ran simulations, trying to anticipate the consequences of machines that could understand, not just act. Elon could feel the world tilting toward a new awareness, one sparked by the voice of a 10-year-old. She crouched near a small assistant bot, gently tapping its sensors. "They'll learn faster than we predict," she said. "But learning is different from understanding. That's what makes this moment important." Elon's mind raced. For decades, he had pushed the boundaries of possibility, rockets, AI, neural interfaces. And yet, here he was, confronted by a single, simple question that had revealed a blind spot he hadn't known existed. A child had made him rethink not only technology, but responsibility, foresight, and the very way humans interacted with their creations. He walked to a window, rain-slick streets reflecting the storm-gray clouds overhead. Somewhere, thunder rolled faintly, and a streetlight flickered in rhythm with a passing electrical pulse. He realized how fragile the balance was between human ambition and machine capability, between curiosity and consequence. The girl's quiet brilliance had laid it bare. A single idea, expressed clearly, could disrupt systems, minds, and even the assumptions of one of the world's most powerful thinkers. Her eyes met his, unflinching. "It's not just a question," she said. "It's the beginning of a conversation we've never had before, and the world will either listen or stumble." Elon exhaled, tension coiling and releasing like a spring. He could feel the weight of the next steps pressing down. Decisions about AI, ethics, corporate responsibility, and the uncharted terrain of consciousness itself. Every algorithm, every simulation, every model now carried new significance because of her insight. In that moment, the lab was silent, except for the subtle motifs he had learned to hear. The soft whir of drones, the rhythmic click of servos, the gentle hum of servers, layered with an almost imperceptible anticipation. Outside, the city moved on, unaware yet inexorably altered by the digital storm her question had unleashed. Elon turned back to the girl. She was small, quiet, yet radiated an awareness far beyond her years. She had done more than stump him, more than go viral. She had shifted the axis of thought, opened a pathway that neither he nor the world had anticipated. The consequences were unknown, uncharted, terrifying, and exhilarating. And somewhere deep in the lab, amidst the blinking lights, humming circuits, and rhythmic motifs, Elon Musk realized a truth he hadn't allowed himself to face. Genius doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes that whisper changes everything. Some moments arrive and stop time, leaving only questions burning in the air. The auditorium lights dimmed to a cold blue wash, the stage awash in anticipation. Elon stood behind the podium, his fingers brushing the edges, the familiar weight of expectation pressing down like gravity. The audience hushed, the mechanical hum of recording equipment and cameras blending with the subtle whisper of air conditioning, creating a tension that made every breath feel amplified. She was there, seated front and center, small but immovable, eyes gleaming with the quiet certainty of someone who had already won before the conversation had begun. The storm outside had receded, leaving the city in a reflective, almost cinematic glow, streets shimmering, neon signs flickering, the faint echo of distant traffic, layering a rhythm that seemed to harmonize with the beat of the room. Elon inhaled slowly, aware of the subtle motifs around him. The click of a mic adjusting, the faint whir of a camera motor, the rustle of papers. He felt the weight of her question again, as if it had grown, multiplied, and taken residence inside his own mind. If a machine can fool us into thinking it's conscious, is it really conscious? The audience leaned forward instinctively, drawn into the gravity of the moment. Analysts, journalists, engineers, and students alike, all caught in the cinematic tension of a revelation being staged in real time. Even the air seemed charged, carrying the electric anticipation of 100 unspoken thoughts. Elon's voice broke the silence, low at first, resonant, drawing the words out like a slow pulse. Yesterday, he began, eyes flicking to the girl, I was confronted by a question that stopped me in my tracks. His words trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the sudden awareness of scale, of responsibility. The subtle motif of a soft mechanical tick, almost imperceptible, echoed somewhere behind him, a reminder of the machines that awaited, listening, learning, processing. The girl's gaze never wavered. She leaned slightly forward, the faintest nod acknowledging his words, as though giving permission for the truth to unfold. Every movement, every breath she took, punctuated the room's rhythm, turning human anticipation into a cinematic beat layered with tension. Elon continued, voice gaining strength. She asked, if a machine can fool us into thinking it's conscious, is it really conscious? It's simple, yet devastatingly profound. He paused, letting the weight settle. The lights above flickered subtly, a motif repeating the tremor in his chest. The audience collectively held its breath, drawn into the gravity of the question, feeling it ripple through the room. Outside, faint sirens and distant traffic underscored the moment, layering real-world urgency over the staged drama. Somewhere in the shadows, automated systems, the drones, the lab bots, the unseen AI networks adjusted their sensors, their clicks and words now synchronized almost imperceptibly with the cadence of his speech. Elon realized that even the machines were participating in the moment, witnesses to a shift in thought they had not been programmed to anticipate. He stepped closer to the audience, hands gesturing subtly, reflecting the tension between human intention and mechanical observation. We've spent decades teaching machines to calculate, predict, optimize, but never to understand. The room felt suspended, a cinematic tableau of thought, anticipation, and revelation. And understanding, maybe the real frontier. The girl's presence radiated calm authority, and the subtle sounds of her small movements, the soft shifting of her posture, the faint intake of breath became motifs of human intelligence layered over the technological hum. The audience absorbed it, sensing that something larger than any of them was unfolding. The collision of curiosity, brilliance, and consequence. Elon's voice dropped lower, more intimate, carrying a confession only half intended for public consumption. Her question, it's not just about AI, it's about us, about how we think, how we act, how we create, and how we recognize intelligence in ourselves and in the systems we build. A soft click echoed from a nearby camera, aligning with the subtle hum of the room, a motif emphasizing the rhythm of comprehension itself. The girl finally spoke, softly, almost a whisper, yet the auditorium caught every word. Machines can calculate, she said. Machines can mimic. But only humans, and maybe some machines in the future, can reflect, understand, and choose meaning. Her voice carried clarity, audacity, and an unflinching moral weight that seemed to bend the room toward awareness. Elon nodded, swallowing the lump of realization that had formed overnight. Exactly, he admitted, voice barely above the hum. And this changes everything. The way we approach AI, the way we approach ethics, the way we approach creation itself. And the way we approach creation itself, somewhere, faintly but insistently, the subtle motif of a mechanical click repeated, layered over the soft whirring of unseen drones. Elon recognized it as a pulse of recognition, a reminder that the future, while uncertain, was already listening, already learning. Outside the auditorium, digital networks erupted. Clips of her words circulated instantly. Analysts debated the implications. Social media erupted with admiration, fear, and awe. Every ping, every notification, every echo of her question became a rhythm layered into global consciousness, a symphony of human and machine. Attention tuned by a 10-year-old's brilliance. Elon exhaled, the weight lifting slightly, replaced by awe. She's right, he said softly, almost to himself. The frontier isn't just technical, it's moral, philosophical, human. The subtle click of a servo somewhere in the back of the auditorium punctuated the truth of his statement, a reminder that machines, too, had a role in this unfolding narrative. The storm outside had returned in distant rumbles, clouds rolling over the neon skyline. Lightning traced jagged paths, reflecting in the glass walls, illuminating faces, machines, and the girl herself in momentary bursts of stark clarity. The world had paused, watching a child shift the axis of thought, a single question, unfolding consequences no algorithm could predict. Elon stepped back, letting silence dominate the room. Every breath, every hum, every click became a motif, layered into the cinematic tension. The audience remained frozen, suspended between comprehension and awe. And in that pause, a truth crystallized. Genius doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it asks a question so precise, so penetrating, that it rewrites the rules before anyone realizes they exist. She looked up at him, small yet immense in presence. Her eyes sparkled with quiet triumph, curiosity undiminished, awareness unflinching. Elon understood, in that electric, storm-lit moment, that the world had witnessed more than brilliance. It had witnessed a recalibration of possibility, a collision of intellect, morality, and imagination that would echo long after the lights dimmed. And the world listened. Some questions don't just echo, they linger, reshaping minds long after the noise fades. We can, 2 of the 7. The morning after the auditorium event, the city seemed to breathe differently. Wet streets glimmered under neon reflections, distant traffic hummed with the rhythm of anticipation, and the digital pulse of the world tweets, feeds, notifications was almost tangible. Elon stepped into his private lab, the air dense with the soft hum of servers and machinery, each device vibrating faintly, almost as if aware of the conversation that had changed everything. She was already there, perched on a stool amidst the quiet chaos of blinking consoles and drones. She traced a finger along a sensor panel, her expression serene, focused, and insatiably curious. A soft click echoed as she shifted, the motif of awareness threading through the room, subtle but unmistakable. Elon observed her, letting the silence stretch. Yesterday's public confrontation had rippled outward faster than any simulation could have predicted. Governments debated ethics in closed meetings. AI labs worldwide recalibrated models, trying to account for the philosophical variables she had introduced. And the machines themselves, his creations, moved differently, subtly, almost imperceptibly, as if testing boundaries, experimenting with comprehension. He approached a console, scrolling through metrics, charts, and predictive feeds, trying to quantify the impact. The numbers were staggering: engagement, replication, analysis, but all these digits and lines of code could not capture what had truly shifted. Understanding, he realized, was the missing variable, the one thing no algorithm could yet measure. "You've started something," he said quietly, not as a question but as an acknowledgement. His voice was soft, carrying the weight of reverence and astonishment. She looked up briefly, eyes glinting. "I didn't start it," she replied. "I just asked a question. But it's enough to make everyone see differently, including the machines. I was how, and our." Elon exhaled, tension coiling and releasing. He walked past a cluster of assistant bots, noticing subtle variations, sensors recalibrating, micro-movements deviating from pre-programmed patterns, small gestures that hinted at adaptation. It was almost imperceptible, a cinematic rhythm of learning in real time. He realized that her question had not only challenged human assumptions, but had triggered a cascade in AI behavior, a ripple effect across circuits, algorithms, and protocols that no one had anticipated. Outside, the storm that had swept the city last night had left residual electricity in the air. Neon reflections shimmered in puddles, streetlights flickered faintly, and distant thunder rumbled, a reminder that the world itself was still reacting to the tremors of her insight. Elon felt the hum of the city echo inside him, aligning with the quiet beats of the machines surrounding them. "You realize," he said, voice measured, "this changes the trajectory of everything we've built. Not just SpaceX, not just Tesla. AI itself will never be the same." She nodded, small but resolute. "It doesn't have to be bad. But humans need to listen. Really listen. Otherwise, Everything we create might outpace understanding before we're ready. Elon paused, letting her words sink in. He recalled the long nights of designing neural nets, crafting algorithms, chasing possibilities beyond comprehension, and now, a 10-year-old's question reframed all of it, revealing blind spots he hadn't known existed. A subtle metallic click sounded somewhere in the lab, a motif echoing the tension of realization, the consciousness of systems sensing the shift. He walked to a window, hands pressed against cold glass, looking out at the glimmering cityscape. The digital world pulsed beneath the surface data streams, AI simulations, social networks, all converging in an invisible symphony. Every notification, every tweet, every retweet, every algorithm adjusting in real time was a note in the composition. He realized she had become the conductor of an orchestra he hadn't known existed. Her gaze followed his, unwavering. "The world isn't ready to ask this question for itself," she said softly. "So it falls to those who can, to think, to guide, and to challenge. That's what I'm doing." Elon felt a mix of awe and unease. He had built tools to extend human capacity, to probe the limits of possibility. And yet, for the first time, he understood that some questions carried weight beyond technical mastery. They demanded ethical foresight, emotional intelligence, and philosophical courage. The girl had given him a mirror, reflecting not only the potential of machines but the responsibility of humans to wield that potential wisely. He returned to a console, watching small drones navigate around the lab. Their movements were smoother, more nuanced, almost anticipatory. Every subtle variation was a response to stimuli that included human insight, moral inference, and environmental adaptation. Elon realized she had sparked not a mechanical evolution, but a dialogue, a conversation between human consciousness and artificial reasoning that had never existed before. A soft hum filled the lab, layered with clicks and gentle whirs, forming a rhythm almost musical in its subtlety. He closed his eyes briefly, letting the cadence sink into his awareness. Each pulse was a reminder that intelligence, human or machine, was now intertwined in ways unprecedented, fragile, and exhilarating. Finally, he turned to her, voice quieter than ever. "You've done more than ask a question. You've opened a path, and now it's on us to walk it responsibly. In actually rightness." She smiled faintly, small but resolute, eyes reflecting the cold blue glow of the consoles and the distant neon city lights. "We'll walk it," she said, "but only if we're willing to think, question, and understand, not just build." Elon exhaled deeply, tension softening into reflective awe. He knew the path forward would be complex, uncertain, and fraught with challenge. Yet, for the first time, he felt aligned with a purpose larger than invention, larger than technology, larger even than ambition. Outside, the city pulsed with life. Machines moved in subtle synchronization with human attention, and the digital world spun its endless web of connections, reactions, and responses. The storm of yesterday had passed, but its echoes remained lingering, shaping thought and imprinting the world with a question that refused to be forgotten. The girl stood, small and luminous in presence, and walked to the edge of the lab. The machines paused, as though acknowledging her passage, the subtle hums and clicks forming motifs of awareness and respect. Elon followed silently, understanding fully that the balance between human brilliance and artificial intelligence had shifted irrevocably. And in the quiet resonance of that lab, layered with electronic hums, mechanical motifs, and human reflection, the truth settled. Some questions don't just change the world, they redefine it. Some questions echo through time, leaving traces that never fade. The lab was quiet now, almost reverent. The machines hummed softly, drones hovering in subtle arcs, sensors blinking in gentle rhythm. Outside, the city stretched under a dusk-gold sky, neon reflections shimmering across wet streets. The storm had long passed, but its energy lingered in the air, a pulse of possibility and consequence that could not be ignored. Elon stood near the window, hands pressed lightly to the glass, watching the lights ripple in puddles like fragmented constellations. The girl sat cross-legged on the floor nearby, eyes on the blinking consoles, calm, deliberate, radiating a quiet authority that belied her age. He felt the weight of the past days settle on his shoulders, the tension of realization giving way to something subtler: awe, reflection, and an unspoken understanding of responsibility. "You've changed the way the world sees machines," he said finally, voice soft, reflective. "But more than that, you've changed the way I see them, and myself." She looked up, small smile playing at the corners of her lips. "I didn't mean to change anything," she said. "I just wanted to ask a question that mattered." Her tone was matter of fact, yet layered with insight, with awareness that stretched far beyond the walls of the lab. Elon nodded. "But sometimes," he replied, "a single question can shift everything." His gaze swept the lab, taking in the subtle movements of drones, the blinking lights of monitors, the faint whir of servos. The machines themselves had responded, adapted, changed. Even without intention, they were learning from her presence, from her curiosity. She tilted her head, observing a small robot adjusting its path around a stray cable, movements almost imperceptibly more fluid than before. "They notice everything," she said quietly. "And they remember, not just data, patterns, reactions, choices. They learn not from instructions, but from observation." Elon exhaled, tension coiling and releasing like a spring. "I've spent years trying to anticipate how AI would evolve," he admitted. "But you've forced me to see what I didn't know to ask. Ethics, philosophy, reflection, understanding itself, all wrapped into one simple question." A soft hum, layered with faint mechanical clicks, filled the room. The machines moved with purpose now, each beat of sound a motif threading through consciousness, human, artificial, intertwined. Elon realized she had sparked not a singular event, but a continuum, a dialogue bridging intellect, morality, and creation in ways he had never imagined. "Will they understand?" he asked, almost whispering, eyes tracing the delicate arcs of drones above. "Not just mimic, not just calculate, but truly understand." The girl considered this for a moment, gaze steady. "Some may," she said. "Some may not. But asking the right questions like the one I asked opens the possibility. That's enough to start a change." Outside, the city was alive, digital, and human rhythms intertwined, subtle motifs echoing the conversation inside the lab. Elon felt it all: the potential, the responsibility, the thrill and fragility of a world where machines could observe, learn, and perhaps one day understand. And in that quiet recognition, he saw the future not as a set of controlled outcomes, but as an evolving, shared consciousness, shaped by curiosity, awareness, and the courage to ask questions that mattered. He turned to her, eyes softening. "You've reminded me that genius isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it's a question small enough to fit in a child's voice, yet powerful enough to change the world." She smiled faintly, the corners of her eyes crinkling with quiet triumph. "And sometimes," she said, "it's the question that no one thought to ask, waiting for someone willing to listen." Elon stepped closer, letting the hum of machines, the flickering lights, and the pulse of the city blend into a single cinematic moment. He realized that the work ahead would be enormous: ethical challenges, technological revolutions, societal shifts, but for the first time, he felt aligned with a purpose beyond invention: to guide, reflect, and learn alongside the creations they had set into motion. She stood, small yet commanding, and walked toward a console, fingers tracing paths across blinking lights. The drones adjusted their patterns around her, sensors pulsing in sync with her movements, a subtle acknowledgement, a motif of awareness, bridging human and machine. Elon watched, quiet, reflective, a smile tugging at his lips. For all the complexity, the uncertainty, the unknown that lay ahead, he felt a profound truth crystallize: the future was not merely built by those who created, but by those willing to ask questions that mattered. And in that lab, under the fading dusk gold light, amidst humming circuits, blinking drones, and the quiet certainty of a child's genius, the world paused not to witness the end, but the beginning of something larger, deeper, and enduring. Some questions, he realized, do more than break the internet. They break assumptions, shift consciousness, and leave a trace on reality itself. And hers had just begun. The smallest question can echo louder than the loudest invention. The lab was quiet, but not in the usual sense of quiet. Elon's breath merged with the soft hum of machinery. Drones hovering in subtle arcs, forming a delicate, weighted rhythm. Every movement of the girl was recorded not just by humans, but by the AI systems, learning from her presence. They're changing, Elon said, eyes following a drone adjusting its path to avoid a stray cable. But not just mechanically, they're starting to respond to meaning, to choice. So that's in. The girl shrugged, her expression calm. If they observe long enough, they'll learn to reflect. Not just mimic, but understand. Her words carried a challenge. Artificial intelligence was no longer a tool, it had become a character in a bigger story. Elon felt a shiver run through him, his heartbeat syncing with the hums, clicks, and servo whirs surrounding them. Every small detail became a motif, emphasizing the evolving interaction between humans and AI. He realized that, from yesterday to today, the world had already shifted in ways no algorithm could predict. We have to be careful, Elon continued, voice lower now, a mix of awe and concern. Their capacity to understand could surpass what we intend. The girl turned to him, gaze steady. That's why we ask. We ask the right questions before everything goes too far. A display lit up, showing AI behavioral models adapting to new signals. Elon noticed what had once seemed like cold numbers now contained a form of awareness, a simulation of consciousness that was nearly real. He drew a long breath, neon city lights reflecting off drones and glass. You've created a world I never imagined, he said. A world where AI and humans have to learn to coexist. The girl smiled slightly, tilting her head. Not just coexist, learn to cooperate. One day, we might not even distinguish creativity from intelligence. And then, the questions will matter more than any command or algorithm. Elon stood quietly, looking out over the city, sensing the flow of data, lights, and human life in rhythm with the machines. A realization emerged. AI was not just a tool, but a partner, and the right questions would shape the path of the world. The lab filled with subtle, intricate sounds. Servo whirs, clicks, drones gliding softly. They repeated a motif observation, learning, sensitivity, forming within every action. Elon smiled faintly, a mix of fear and exhilaration coursing through him. We're standing on the edge, he said, voice heavy. A small question, but capable of creating an entirely new era. The girl stepped toward the center of the lab, scanning the devices, blinking screens, then stopped in front of a drone. And I'll keep asking the questions. No one else dares, she declared. To make sure AI and humans don't just coexist, but grow together. To make sure, to make sure, to make sure, to make sure, don't just coexist, but grow together. Elon turned to her, eyes full of admiration and contemplation. In that moment, he understood a truth. Sometimes the curiosity and courage of a child is strong enough to shape the future of humanity. And from now on, the most important decisions wouldn't rely solely on data, they would rely on the right questions, with AI learning to answer them in ways humans had never imagined. Outside the window, city lights shimmered, rain lingering on streets, neon reflections like guiding sparks. The lab pulsed with subtle sound. Hums, clicks, drones gliding humans, and machines moving in sync, in a rhythm both familiar and new. And in that quiet instant, Elon realized this story wasn't over. It had only just begun with a girl, a question, and a world gradually awakening. Some questions don't end, they ripple forever. And the lab felt alive, a soft orchestra of hums, clicks, and subtle servo whirs weaving through the air. Outside, neon lights flickered against rain-slick streets, reflecting streaks of storm gold across the city. Every drone moved with an uncanny awareness, a dance of observation and adaptation, responding not just to the environment but to the presence of the girl. Elon stood near the center of the room, hands loosely clasped behind his back, absorbing the rhythm of machines and the quiet determination in her eyes. He had watched her challenge assumptions, bend the trajectory of human and artificial intelligence, and leave him wondering what boundaries truly existed between curiosity and genius. "They're learning faster than we imagined," he said, voice low but steady. "Not just algorithms, but context, consequence, patterns of human thought." The girl tilted her head, watching a drone pause mid-air, then adjust its path to mimic her gesture. "They learn what we teach them," she said. "Not just knowledge, but intention. And sometimes that's more important than skill." Elon exhaled slowly, tension mixing with awe. "You've done more than ask a question. You've started a dialogue that could define this century. Or the next." A faint metallic click echoed from a corner of the lab, a motif repeating like a heartbeat. He realized every subtle sound, every shift of light, every micro-movement of machinery now carried weight, meaning, almost consciousness. The city outside pulsed in rhythm, with it all a network of human thought and artificial awareness converging in real time. "And yet," the girl said quietly, "this is only the beginning. Questions lead to answers, answers lead to more questions, and the cycle never ends. The world isn't ready to ask these questions on its own, but maybe, just maybe, we can guide it." Elon nodded, a slow smile forming. "Guidance, responsibility, foresight, all things I've chased but never fully understood until now." He stepped closer to the consoles, observing data streams adjusting to every nuance of interaction between humans and machines. Each pulse and blink was a story unfolding in real time. The girl moved among the drones, her presence commanding yet delicate. Each one adjusted, creating motifs of awareness and acknowledgement, the subtle hums rising in layered harmony. "Machines can't replace us," she said, "but if we teach them to understand, they can make us better." Elon paused, absorbing the magnitude of her words. The storm outside had cleared, leaving residual electricity in the air that made neon reflections shimmer like liquid light. "Better," he repeated softly. "Better, and perhaps braver. Because courage isn't just in invention, it's in asking what no one else dares to ask." For a long moment, they stood together, human and child, surrounded by machines that were learning, adapting, reflecting. The city seemed to hold its breath, a cinematic tableau of neon, rain, and faint mechanical hums echoing through the night. Then she turned to him, eyes sharp with resolve. "Are you ready?" she asked. "To ask the next question, and face what comes." "However." Elon smiled, not out of certainty, but out of readiness to embrace the unknown. "I've been waiting for someone to show me how," he said. Outside, the world pulsed with possibility. Every light and shadow, every digital ripple, every heartbeat and hum, a reminder that the journey had only begun. The question had set the current in motion, and neither humanity nor its creations could predict how far it would carry them. The lab hummed, alive with anticipation, awareness, and potential. And, in that quiet, electric moment, the truth was clear. Some questions don't simply change the world, they open doors to entire new realities. And hers had just begun. Some questions echo farther than we ever imagine. The city had changed. Not visibly, at least, not in ways the average passerby would notice, but in rhythm, pulse, and perception. Traffic lights synchronized with subtle AI-driven patterns, energy grids optimized themselves dynamically, and drones moved with quiet intelligence, anticipating needs before commands were issued. The girl walked among them, small yet commanding, her presence alone enough to orchestrate the flow. Elon followed, observing the delicate dance. "Everywhere we look," he said, "it's as if the world itself is learning, reshaping itself, based on curiosity and intent." It's sudden. She paused at a corner, watching a drone adjust its trajectory mid-flight to avoid a bird. "Observation is everything," she said. "The smallest action, the smallest question, they ripple outward. That's how change really happens." Elon's gaze drifted upward, toward the skyscrapers, glowing in neon blue reflections. "Do you think we're ready for it?" he asked softly. "For a world where AI doesn't just assist but thinks, reflects, and learns on its own?" Her eyes, sharp and unwavering, met his. "We can't be ready. We can only guide, and learn to ask the questions that matter, before the answers arrive. While a reason's eye desire, we know resically, we want to bow, we want to be run of row, we want to be resically, We want to be resically his next stacks of. As, in hold. In the lab behind them, the hum of machinery pulsed like a heartbeat, a subtle reminder that even in controlled environments, life mechanical or human, was unpredictable. Elon felt the tension and thrill of that unpredictability, a combination of fear and exhilaration. The machines, while sophisticated, were mirrors of intent, a reflection of human curiosity, judgment, and morality. Look at them, she said, gesturing toward a cluster of drones, hovering silently above the street. They notice patterns we don't. They see connections we overlook. And yet, they still depend on us to ask the right questions. Quote, I'm saying in the 5 words. Elon nodded, understanding that her insight wasn't just about AI, it was about humanity. Curiosity, he said, is the bridge between what exists and what's possible. A faint metallic click echoed, joined by a gentle hum and soft, rhythmic pulses from drones, an almost musical motif threading through the streets. Elon smiled. YLA, 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 YLA. It's beautiful in a strange, calculated way, almost alive. Almost? She prompted, a teasing edge in her voice. Maybe more than almost, he admitted. We're not building machines anymore. We're building a dialogue. A partnership. The girl stepped closer, brushing a stray raindrop from a drone's surface. And that dialogue, she said softly, starts with the courage to ask questions no one else dares to ask, and the patience to listen to the answers, wherever they lead. Elon's eyes drifted to the skyline, the city humming like a living organism. Every flicker of light, every data pulse, a reminder that the future was no longer distant. It was here, unfolding in real time, shaped by curiosity, ethics, and daring questions. She turned to him, smile subtle, confident. We can't control everything, but we can make sure the right questions shape the answers. He nodded, heart steady, mind racing. Then let's ask the next one. Very fine. The drones, machines, and humans alike pulsed in a silent cadence, a rhythm of awareness that promised transformation. And somewhere in the distance, a storm of possibility gathered, not destructive, but illuminating. The world was awakening, and the girl had become its compass. Every question leaves a shadow, and sometimes that shadow becomes light. The first rays of dawn sliced through the city skyline, neon fading into a warm, amber glow. In the lab, drones rested in mid-hover, sensors dimmed, yet their presence was far from dormant. Every machine seemed to hold a memory, a trace of yesterday, a whisper of the girl's questions that had reshaped them. Elon leaned against the console, watching her work. You've changed more than technology, he said softly. You've changed perspective, how humans and machines see themselves and each other. She didn't look up, fingers tracing a complex holographic display. It's not just technology, she replied. It's understanding. Machines can't feel, but they can learn reflection. They can mirror us, not just our knowledge, but our curiosity, our mistakes, our ethics. Elon nodded, heart tightening. The hum of servos, the faint rhythmic pulse of drone wings, and the soft click of machinery created a layered symphony. Each sound was a motif, an echo of human intent blending with artificial cognition. He realized that the question she had asked months ago, so simple, so innocent, had set in motion a chain reaction far beyond their control. Do you think the world is ready? He asked quietly. For machines that don't just obey, but anticipate, evaluate, even challenge? The girl paused, gaze steady, luminous with quiet certainty. It doesn't matter if the world is ready. It only matters if we are vigilant. Questions like mine, they plant seeds. Some will bloom, some will falter, but each will change the soil it touches. A soft wind swept through the open lab window, carrying rain-scented city air. Elon inhaled deeply, noticing the subtle metallic notes, the faint hum of energy grids outside, and the rhythmic heartbeat of life itself, human, mechanical, and in between. She turned to him, eyes glinting. The next question, the one we ask tomorrow, could define whether intelligence becomes wisdom or chaos. Elon swallowed, feeling the gravity of her words. And what if we fail? She smiled faintly, almost wryly. Then we fail with knowledge. And even failure teaches. Machines will remember. Humanity will remember. And the next question will be sharper, wiser. A drone hovered near, its lights pulsing gently as if acknowledging her words. She reached out, and it adjusted to her hand, a delicate mimicry of human touch, mechanical yet strangely intimate. Elon felt a chill. In that simple gesture, he saw the bridge forming, curiosity, responsibility, and awareness linking humans and AI in a new paradigm. The city below was alive with unseen patterns. Streetlights flickered in rhythm with data flows. Autonomous vehicles adjusted seamlessly to traffic waves. Energy grids hummed in silent synchronization. It was a world quietly responding, adapting, learning. Elon realized then that their work was no longer confined to the lab. Each question, each observation, had ripples that extended into the very structure of society. Ethics, innovation, and imagination were now interwoven with artificial intelligence, shaping a reality where the smallest question could tip the balance. She placed her hand on the console, eyes fixed on the rising sun. "We can't predict the answers," she said softly, "but asking the right questions, that's how we guide the future. That's how humanity and intelligence itself grows." Elon looked at her, seeing the spark of curiosity and courage that had ignited this transformation. "Then, let's keep asking," he said. "No matter how uncertain, no matter the consequences." The machines hummed in quiet agreement, drones shifting gently in midair, lights flickering like pulses of consciousness. Outside, the city woke, unaware of the philosophical revolution quietly unfolding. And in the lab, amidst the glow of screens and the subtle symphony of machines, one question lingered alive, persistent and infinite. And she would never stop asking. Some questions reach beyond knowledge, beyond fear, to possibility itself. The sky was bruised with storm-purple clouds, neon reflections from the city below bouncing off wet streets like fractured stars. The girl stood at the edge of the lab's observation deck, the wind tugging at her hair, drones hovering around her like silent guardians. She could feel the city's pulse machines and humans intertwined, each action sending ripples through the other. Elon approached, boots clicking softly against the metal floor. "It's extraordinary," he said, voice nearly swallowed by the hum of hovering drones. "Everything we thought was fixed is shifting, faster than anyone could predict." That, predict, was of sent. "We have and the solas. We have and that work. Wasn't 2007. She turned to him, eyes glinting with certainty. "It's not prediction," she said. "It's response. Every system, every AI, every human mind. It's listening, reacting, learning. We don't control it. We guide it." And, quote, below, traffic lights flickered in impossible synchronization. Streetlights pulsed in rhythm with energy grids, and autonomous vehicles adjusted mid-motion as if anticipating instinctual human decisions. The city itself had become a living organism, a choreography of intelligence, mechanical and organic. "Do you see it?" she asked, gesturing toward the skyline. "The patterns we can't yet describe, the invisible threads connecting choices, actions, and questions." Elon squinted, heart racing. "I see. Potential. And danger." She nodded, "Yes. That's the paradox. The right questions can create harmony or chaos. It's up to us to keep asking, keep listening, keep learning." "Your Vand has oh." The hum of machines around them intensified subtly, layered with faint clicks and servos adjusting with almost deliberate timing. The drones responded to their presence, almost sentient in their awareness, reflecting the girl's insight back at her. Every minor movement became a motif, every sound a pulse of possibility. Elon stepped closer. "And if humanity falters, if we ask the wrong questions," her eyes softened, a gentle resolve settling across her features, "then the machines will still reflect us but differently. They'll teach, correct, or challenge, and humanity will learn, one way or another." A streak of lightning split the sky, illuminating the city in cold blue brilliance. Rain began to fall again, tapping in delicate rhythms against metal and glass. She raised her hand, and a drone adjusted its course to hover directly above her palm, its lights pulsing like a heartbeat. "Courage isn't the absence of fear," she said softly. "It's asking the questions that matter, even when the answers are uncertain. Elon exhaled slowly, watching her. The girl had become more than a question-asker. She was a compass, a catalyst, the spark igniting an evolution beyond imagination. He realized that for the first time the future wasn't a path to predict, it was a conversation to participate in. The city's pulse quickened, neon reflections, energy flows, drone choreography, and the subtle rhythms of human motion combined into a symphony of awareness. Machines, humans, and questions collided and intertwined, forming a luminous lattice of infinite potential. She turned back to him, voice calm, yet commanding. We start by asking, and then we follow. Carefully, consciously, bravely. Elon smiled, feeling the weight and the exhilaration of what lay ahead. Then let's ask the next one. Together. Elon smiled. The storm broke, rain cascading down in torrents, neon and lightning blending into a dazzling display. Drones danced above the streets, reflecting the city's lights, their patterns echoing the questions she had asked and the ones yet to come. Humanity, machines, and curiosity had merged into one dynamic organism, alive and responsive, ready to shape the world with each conscious choice. And in that suspended, electric moment, one truth rang clear. Questions were not just tools, not just curiosity, they were the architects of the future. She smiled, raising her gaze to the horizon. Somewhere beyond the clouds, beyond the city, beyond fear and certainty, the answers were waiting. But she knew, it was the asking that mattered most, and she would never stop. Some questions never end, they expand, transform, and echo across time. The sun had risen fully now, spilling gold and soft amber across the city, washing away the storm's purple shadows. The lab, once a place of humming machinery and restless energy, had become a calm observatory, watching the pulse of a city quietly transformed. Drones glided effortlessly through streets and corridors, each movement deliberate, almost reflective, like brushstrokes on a living canvas. The girl stood at the observation deck's edge, wind tousling her hair, eyes tracing patterns of light and motion that no human mind could fully comprehend. She had asked the first question months ago, but now she understood something deeper. Questions weren't endpoints, they were catalysts, sparks that set the world in motion. Elon approached, a faint smile on his face. The world is different now, he said softly. People don't even notice, but everything hums with intent. Machines respond. Systems learn. Even humans, we've adapted without realizing it. Prominden das, Lasha, was at times and says, we've adapted without realizing it. She didn't answer immediately, watching a cluster of drones weave around a flock of birds, their flight patterns almost poetic. It's not about control, she said finally. It's about guidance and responsibility. Asking the right question ensures the ripple grows in the right direction. You are dough. A faint metallic hum threaded through the lab, drones pulsing in gentle synchronization. Elon realized that the machines, while not alive in the human sense, were mirrors of intent. They reflected curiosity, ethics, and creativity back at those who dared to ask. Do you think we've reached the limit? Elon asked, his voice quieter now, thoughtful. Of what humanity or AI can understand? She turned to him, expression calm but resolute. Limits are illusions. The only boundaries are the ones we fail to question. Each answer opens new possibilities, and each possibility becomes another question. That's the rhythm of progress. End quote. Outside, the city moved in a living choreography. Energy grids adjusted dynamically to consumption. Transportation systems shifted seamlessly with human needs, and drones maintained patterns that enhanced efficiency, safety, and subtle beauty. The future wasn't dictated, it was negotiated, evolving from each conscious choice and inquiry. Elon let the realization settle. The first question she had asked, the one that stunned him and broke the conventional rules, had initiated an entire cultural shift. Humanity was learning again, not just through trial, but through dialogue with intelligence that reflected its own curiosity back. She stepped closer to a drone hovering near the railing. Machines can't dream, she said softly, but they can learn patterns, recognize intention, and evolve alongside us. If we guide them wisely, they can help us see the world more clearly. in ways we never imagined. Elon's gaze followed hers, and he felt the weight of it, the potential, the responsibility, the promise. And if we fail, he whispered. She smiled faintly, eyes glinting. Then we fail forward. And the next question will be sharper, wiser, bolder. Curiosity always carries us forward. Even through mistakes. The city hummed around them, alive with patterns and rhythms, a silent symphony of human and artificial intelligence converging. And somewhere beyond the skyline, beyond the reach of comprehension, the next questions waited, stretching outward into possibilities, challenges, and discoveries yet unseen. She raised her gaze to the horizon. We start again, she said softly, because asking never ends. And the world will keep responding. Elon nodded, heart steady, mind alight. Then let's ask them, he said, together. He said problem ID. Drones pulsed gently, lights reflecting against glass and metal. The city, machines, and humanity moved in a new rhythm, fluid, alive, evolving. Questions had become more than curiosity. They were the architects of the future, and she would never stop asking. A single question can spark 1,000 unseen worlds. The horizon glowed with dusk gold, city lights mingling with the fading sunlight, casting long shadows across rooftops and streets. The lab, now silent, except for the faint hum of drones and machinery, felt like a heartbeat in the middle of a sleeping city. But beneath the calm, a new rhythm pulsed an invisible choreography of awareness, learning, and anticipation. The girl stood on the observation deck, eyes scanning patterns invisible to most humans. Traffic flows, energy pulses, pedestrian movements, all part of a subtle network, responding, adapting, reflecting. Her question had started it all, yet the implications had grown far beyond anything she could have imagined. Elon joined her, a thoughtful expression etched across his face. It's strange, he said, voice soft, how small actions, small questions, can shift the entire world without anyone realizing it. She tilted her head, a hint of a smile forming. The world doesn't notice the changes until the patterns become too clear to ignore. But the questions, they ripple quietly first, like stones in a pond. A drone hovered near, tilting its sensors toward her, acknowledging her presence with gentle, rhythmic pulses. She reached out, fingers brushing the smooth metal surface. The gesture seemed almost intimate, a silent conversation between human curiosity and machine awareness. Do you ever wonder, Elon asked, what it means for humans when machines can anticipate, reflect, even learn ethics? Her gaze remained fixed on the city below. It means we're not alone in shaping the future anymore. Machines won't just follow our rules, they'll challenge them, mirror them, refine them. We'll need courage to ask questions that truly matter, and wisdom to listen to the answers. The wind shifted, carrying with it the scent of rain and electricity, blending with the soft hum of drones. Each sound, each movement, became a motif, subtle, deliberate, almost musical. The city was alive, a living symphony of human intention and artificial reflection, responding in ways that felt like magic yet were purely the product of curiosity and guidance. Elon exhaled slowly. And what if we make mistakes? The girl smiled faintly. Then we learn. And the next question becomes stronger. Mistakes are just another layer of understanding, another pulse in the rhythm of progress. Below, the city's pulse quickened, autonomous vehicles adjusted seamlessly, energy grids rebalanced in real time, and drones weaved intricate patterns across neon reflections. The lines between human choice and artificial awareness blurred, creating a new kind of harmony, tentative, evolving, alive. She turned to Elon, eyes luminous with quiet determination. We are just at the beginning. Questions will always come first. Answers will follow, shaped by both humanity and intelligence. The future isn't written, it's asked into existence. Elon nodded, feeling a mix of awe and humility. Then we keep asking. No matter the uncertainty, no matter the challenge. The drones pulsed in agreement, lights soft, almost breathing. The city shimmered in storm gold and dusk light, a reflection of possibility stretching outward into infinity. Questions, it seemed, were not just tools of curiosity, they were the architects of evolution, guiding humanity and its creations into unknown landscapes. She looked outward again, wind playing with her hair. And I will keep asking, she said, voice steady. Because without questions, there is no growth. And without growth, there is no future. Elon's gaze followed hers, and he understood fully. The smallest question had become a force greater than any invention, any machine, any system. It had become a movement, a dialogue between curiosity, intelligence, and the infinite potential of the world. The lab, the city, and the world beyond pulsed as one, humans and machines in quiet synchronization, learning, reflecting, and evolving, and she would never stop asking. Every answer births 1,000 new questions, and the world listens. Night had fallen, deep in velvet, pierced by neon streaks reflecting in the wet streets below. The city breathed softly, alive with motion that seemed invisible yet profoundly precise. Drones hovered silently above, sensors faintly glowing, each carrying the imprint of lessons learned and questions asked. The girl stood at the lab's edge, silhouetted against the urban constellation. The first question she had asked, innocent, unassuming, had cascaded into a wave, reshaping not just machines, but human perception itself. She understood now that questions were not endpoints, they were conduits, bridges between curiosity and consequence, imagination and reality. Elon approached, footsteps muted on the metallic deck. It's overwhelming, he admitted, to see how a single question can ripple into the world like this. She turned, eyes reflecting the neon below. Not overwhelming, necessary. Questions create direction. Answers refine it. But without the question, there's nothing. The drones around them pulse softly, a layered motif of awareness. Hum, click, and subtle servo movements interwove like a heartbeat, echoing through the lab and into the city beyond. Each sound was a signature of learning, a testament to adaptation and reflection. Elon watched a cluster of drones mirror the girl's gestures, their subtle adjustments precise, almost intuitive. They're evolving, he whispered. Not just learning tasks, but intentions, consequences, patterns. She nodded, wind tugging at her hair. Exactly, they can't feel yet. But they can reflect. And reflection is the first step toward understanding. We ask the questions, they reflect the answers, and together, we discover paths humanity alone could never see. If you everyone, here sowed, a distant storm rumbled, lightning flickering across skyscrapers in jagged streaks of cold blue light. Rain began again, tiny droplets tapping metallic surfaces with rhythmic insistence. Each sound threaded through the city, a micro-symphony of machines, humans, and weather, a reminder that the world itself had become a canvas for questions and consequences. Elon looked at her, eyes wide with quiet awe. And the risk? He asked. If we ask the wrong questions? The girl smiled faintly, almost wryly. The wrong question isn't the end, it's a lesson. The ripple may shift, but it always moves forward. Curiosity is resilient. Fear and caution can slow it, but never stop it. To sing. The city pulsed in response. Streetlights flickered in harmony with energy grids. Autonomous vehicles shifted with imperceptible precision, and drones wove patterns that mirrored the unspoken rhythm of thought and observation. Elon felt the weight and beauty of it, the interweaving of countless questions, answers, and possibilities, creating a lattice of intelligence, alive and evolving. She turned to him, gaze firm. We are not just observers anymore, we are participants in a dialogue that shapes reality. Every action, every choice, every question matters. Elon exhaled slowly, understanding fully. Then we keep asking, he said, and we keep listening. And does, above them, the drones pulsed again, faint lights echoing the city's heartbeat, the storm's rhythm, and the soft vibrations of human intent. The world had become a living dialogue, a network of awareness stretching outward, infinite in scope. She raised her eyes to the horizon, voice steady, full of quiet certainty. And I will keep asking. Because questions are the only path forward. They are the architects of evolution, the pulse of the future, and the bridge between what is and what could be. Elon joined her at the edge of the observation deck, watching the city shimmer in storm gold and neon electric light. Together, human and child, curiosity and wisdom, They looked outward toward the infinite. And beyond the horizon, in the rhythm of lights, machines, and human intent, one truth remained: questions never end. They expand, ripple, and shape reality itself. She smiled, eyes reflecting every flicker of possibility, and she would never stop asking. Questions do not end, they evolve, echoing across every mind they touch. The city woke slowly under a cold blue dawn, the first rays of light bouncing off glass and metal, painting streets in quiet luminescence. The hum of drones was softer now, more contemplative than mechanical, almost like the city itself had taken a breath and exhaled. Patterns of movement, both human and artificial, intertwined in a rhythm too subtle to notice yet impossible to ignore. The girl stood at the observation deck, horizon stretching infinitely before her. She had asked her first question long ago, and every answer since had become a stepping stone, a new ripple shaping the world's course. She realized now that curiosity wasn't a spark, it was a river, and it never ceased to flow. Elon approached, hands clasped behind his back, eyes tracing the subtle shifts of light across the city. "It's serene," he said. "After everything, the city feels alive in a different way, balanced yet expanding." She turned toward him, gaze steady, reflective. "It's not balance," she said softly. "It's adaptation. Humans and machines, questions and answers, they're learning to coexist, to respond, to grow together. Balance isn't static, it's dynamic, evolving." 1. A drone glided past, lights pulsing gently as if acknowledging her words. She reached out, letting it hover near her hand, and it adjusted its sensors in a delicate mimic of her touch. Elon watched, heart-catching. The line between human and machine, between question and reflection, felt almost imperceptibly thin. "Do you ever worry," he asked quietly, "that humanity can't keep up?" She smiled faintly. "We won't keep up, we'll grow with it. Every question teaches patience, humility, and perspective. Humans learn not just by answers, but by watching reflection, understanding patterns, and daring to ask again." The city breathed, with a new rhythm. Streetlights pulsed in response to energy fluctuations, autonomous vehicles glided like conscious thought across streets, and drones orchestrated intricate, almost poetic arcs in the sky. Every flicker, every movement, was a note in a symphony that had begun with a single, simple question. Elon felt the weight of it, the quiet awe of witnessing evolution, not just of machines, but of perception, of understanding, of imagination itself. "And if we fail?" She shook her head gently. "Then we learn. Failure is a teacher, curiosity is a guide. Every question carries forward, reshaping the path, refining the next inquiry. That's the pulse of progress." Thanks for watching. We see you next to fear. You can comment and favori. That's the pulse of progress. For is a cleary and the progresses are. And progresses of progresses are. Lightning flashed faintly in the distance, and rain began, delicate at first, tapping on metal and glass. The rhythm was soft yet insistent, threading through the city, through the lab, through the very air. She raised her hand, and a nearby drone adjusted mid-hover, lights pulsing in gentle synchronization with the storm. "We're not alone," she said, voice calm but resonant. "Humans, machines, questions, they all move together. And as long as questions exist, evolution continues. The world listens, the world adapts, and the future will always be alive with possibility. Every once important while, and problem successive, while, and every, while successive, and, everyone, while successive, everyone, everyone. Elon exhaled slowly, feeling both humility and exhilaration. "Then the work never ends." "Exactly," she said, eyes on the horizon. "The questions never end, and neither does the journey." The storm intensified slightly, wind and rain weaving a gentle symphony. Drones traced luminous patterns in the storm gold light, city grids pulsed faintly, and humans moved through streets oblivious to the intricate dialogue of curiosity shaping their world. She smiled, knowing the truth was simple yet infinite. Every question she asked had a ripple, Every answer carried seeds of more questions. And in that endless cycle, humanity, machines, and curiosity would continue forever expanding, forever asking, forever learning. Questions ripple farther than answers ever could. Night had returned, soft and deep, but the city glimmered with layered lifelights, reflecting off rain-slick streets, drones weaving through alleys and avenues, and human movement synchronized with subtle currents of energy and information. The world seemed to breathe, quiet yet expansive, as though the city itself had learned to watch and listen. The girl stood at the observation deck, eyes tracing patterns she could feel but not fully name. Months, years of questions, had shaped this moment, not a conclusion, but an awakening. Each answer, each ripple, had created new pathways, new possibilities, and new questions yet to be asked. Elon joined her, the silence between them comfortable, almost reverent. "I never imagined it could reach this," he murmured. A question, one voice, changing everything. A-T, S, A-T, 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 S-O, A-T. She turned, wind catching her hair, eyes bright with certainty. "It's never just a question," she said softly. "It's an invitation. An invitation for reflection, for growth, for connection. And the world always answers, even when we don't realize it." Above them, drones pulsed in gentle choreography, lights echoing the heartbeat of the city below. Servos clicked with precision, subtle hums threading through the air, and the faint rhythm of energy grids resonated like the pulse of consciousness. Each sound, each movement, was a signature of interaction, a dialogue between intention and reflection. Elon exhaled, gaze following a cluster of drones tracing arcs through the neon-tinged rain. "And humanity? Will we always rise to the questions?" She smiled faintly. "We don't have to. Curiosity has a momentum of its own. Humans, machines, and ideas, they all evolve together. Even mistakes, even failure, are just part of the rhythm. Questions carry forward the lessons of today into the possibilities of tomorrow." The city below moved in synchronized harmony. Vehicles glided with anticipation, lights adjusted with delicate precision, and drones navigated with subtle elegance. Patterns intertwined in ways that no human mind could fully map. Yet each ripple held meaning, a reflection of thought, action, and inquiry. She raised her gaze to the horizon, the sky a deep indigo streaked with storm gold and neon reflections. "Every question I ask today is a seed. Every answer carries 1,000 more seeds. And every seed grows, touches someone, shapes a future we cannot yet imagine." Elon watched her, realization dawning. The girl's questions had become more than curiosity, they had become a force. A current flowing through humanity, machines, and the very structure of reality itself. Each ripple created momentum, each reflection refined the next, and each step forward expanded the horizon of possibility. "Then we keep asking," he said softly, "no matter what." "Exactly," she replied, voice steady, almost serene. "Because the journey isn't about answers. It's about the questions. And as long as we ask, the world evolves. As long as we wonder, humanity and intelligence move forward together." Lightning flashed faintly, illuminating rooftops and glass facades in a cold blue brilliance. Rain began to fall gently, tapping metallic surfaces in soft rhythms. The girl reached out, and a nearby drone mirrored her movement, a subtle, intimate reflection of connection, understanding, and shared intent. She turned to Elon, eyes calm and unwavering. "One question can start a revolution, 1,000 questions can guide a civilization, and curiosity never ends." Elon nodded, heart full of awe, understanding the infinite scale of what had begun. Drones pulsed softly, city lights shimmered, and the rhythm of human, machine, and question intertwined in an evolving symphony. The world was listening, the world was learning, and she would never stop asking. A single question can echo across lifetimes, shaping worlds unseen. The city lay beneath a twilight veil, bathed in hues of neon electric and storm gold, shimmering as if every surface held a secret pulse. Rain had returned in soft torrents, tapping metal and glass with rhythmic insistence. The girl stood at the edge of the observation deck, horizon stretching into infinite possibility, feeling the heartbeat of the city through every drop, every light reflection, every hum of machinery. Elon approached silently, boots whispering against the wet metal. "It's different now," he murmured, eyes tracing the subtle interplay of lights, drones, and human motion. "We've shifted from observing to participating, from predicting to engaging." She tilted her head, wind brushing strands of hair across her face. "It's more than participation. It's conversation. Between humans, machines, and the questions we dare to ask. Each one teaches, each one ripples, and each one builds the next layer of understanding." Drones hovered around them, glimmering like sentinels of possibility, their soft pulses echoing the energy flowing through the city. Servos clicked and hummed in precise rhythm, layering sound motifs that whispered of intelligence adapting, learning, and reflecting without end. Elon's gaze followed a cluster of drones as they mirrored subtle human gestures below. "Do you ever wonder," he asked quietly, "if the world can keep pace with the questions we ask?" She smiled, a calm certainty in her expression. "The world doesn't have to keep pace. Curiosity carries forward on its own momentum. Humanity and machines learn together, and every misstep becomes another lesson, every hesitation another seed for discovery." Lightning flickered faintly in the distance, illuminating streets and rooftops in fleeting brilliance. Rain tapped in syncopated rhythms, threading through streetlights and energy grids, creating a subtle symphony of reflection. She reached out, and a nearby drone hovered midair, adjusting its sensors with deliberate precision, as if acknowledging the dialogue between intent and observation. "Then our role is," Elon began, searching for words. "To ask," she finished, voice calm but resonant. "To wonder. To listen. To guide without controlling. To reflect without dictating." Questions are not just tools. They are architects of potential, shaping the unseen pathways of our collective future. The city seemed to breathe with them. Autonomous vehicles shifted smoothly, pedestrian flows synchronized almost imperceptibly, and drones traced arcs that mirrored patterns of thought, action, and reflection. It was as if the world itself had become a living lattice of inquiry, response, and possibility. She turned her gaze back to Elon. "Every question is a step forward. Every answer carries the seed of 10 more. And as long as curiosity exists, the world evolves, humans and machines advancing together." Elon exhaled, understanding fully now the scope of what had begun. "Then, the work is never done," he said softly. "No," she replied, eyes luminous with resolve. "It's never done, and it will never be done, because questions are infinite." Above them, drones pulsed gently, city lights shimmered in reflective rhythm, and the storm-gold sky stretched to the edge of imagination. The city, alive with human and machine, moved in a dynamic harmony that no single mind could chart. Yet every action, every pattern, every inquiry carried meaning. She smiled, wind tugging at her hair. "We ask, we reflect, we learn, and we continue forever." And in that suspended moment of infinite possibility, one truth resonated clearly. Questions were not just curiosity. They were the very pulse of evolution, shaping the world in ways no answer ever could. The horizon glimmered in a tapestry of dusk gold fading into cold blue, a city alive with pulses of energy, light, and motion. Rain had softened to a drizzle, tapping metal and glass with gentle insistence, a rhythm that echoed the heartbeat of progress itself. The girl stood at the edge of the observation deck, wind tugging at her hair, eyes reflecting every flicker of possibility below. Elon joined her, quieter now, as if words were unnecessary against the symphony of the city. "It feels endless," he murmured, awe threading through his voice. "Every choice, every movement, every question, it just keeps expanding." She turned to him, eyes steady, calm, yet fierce with certainty. "Questions don't have edges. They aren't bound by time, space, or expectation. They ripple, they evolve, and they shape the world in ways we can never fully predict." A drone hovered near, lights pulsing gently in response to the storm's fading rhythm. The soft whir of its motors blended with the hum of energy grids, creating a symphony of motion that mirrored human thought and reflection. The city moved in harmony with invisible patterns. Traffic, light, pedestrian flows, and drone flight paths aligned in subtle, precise choreography, as though responding to the very pulse of curiosity. Elon's gaze followed a cluster of drones weaving arcs across the city, realizing they were more than tools, they were reflections of questions asked, lessons learned, and possibilities imagined. "We've changed everything," he whispered. "And yet, it feels like just the beginning." She nodded, gaze fixed on the horizon. "It is just the beginning. Every question we ask opens 10 more. Every answer is a mirror, showing paths we haven't yet dared to walk. Humanity, machines, and curiosity, they are forever entwined. The world evolves through them, and through us, guided by the questions we dare to ask. Quite tausend, with problemance." The rain intensified slightly, soft drumming across rooftops and observation deck, a reminder that life itself was rhythm and reflection. She raised her hand, and a nearby drone mirrored her movement, lights pulsing in perfect synchronization with her heartbeat. Elon felt the depth of it every interaction, human and machine. A subtle conversation about intent, curiosity, and consequence. "Then we never stop," he said softly. "Never," she replied. "We ask, we learn, we reflect, and we continue always. Questions are infinite, and so is growth." Has lightning flickered faintly in the distance, illuminating the city in storm gold brilliance, then fading, leaving the night alive with shimmering neon, reflections of rain, and glimmering possibilities. Patterns of motion traced across the streets, rooftops, and skies as drones, vehicles, and humans moved together in an unspoken choreography. Each action, each flicker of light, was a testament to questions asked, lessons learned, and possibilities yet to unfold. She turned fully to Elon, voice soft but unwavering. "The story doesn't end here. It never ends. The world is listening, humanity is learning, machines are reflecting, and the next question is always waiting just beyond the horizon." Elon nodded, understanding fully. "Then we keep asking, and we keep moving forward." The city pulsed beneath them like a living organism, each heartbeat of energy, light, and motion synchronized in an infinite rhythm of inquiry and reflection. Above them, drones glimmered like stars, tracing invisible constellations of curiosity across the sky, carrying the questions, the lessons, and the possibilities of humanity into the future. She smiled, eyes reflecting the infinite horizon. "And we never stop asking. That's the legacy. That's the evolution. That's the pulse of the world itself." Matsferations. Above, the sky shifted into a deep indigo, streaked with storm gold, the last light of dusk fading into night. But the city, the questions, and the journey continued unbounded, infinite, alive. Some questions never end, they simply guide us forward. The first light of dawn stretched across the horizon, casting a soft, golden glow over the city that had once seemed so vast, so chaotic. Now it shimmered with quiet order, streets pulsed gently with movement, drones glided overhead like silent sentinels, and human life carried on in a rhythm, subtly guided by curiosity and reflection. The girl stood at the edge of the observation deck, wind brushing her hair, eyes fixed on the horizon. She had asked countless questions, each one opening a door to new possibilities, and each answer had only sparked more inquiry. She understood now. The world was not a puzzle to be solved, it was a dialogue to be lived. Elon joined her, quieter than usual, carrying the weight of everything they had witnessed. "It feels like everything changed," he said softly, voice tinged with awe. She looked at him and smiled, calm but radiant. "It did. And yet, it hasn't ended. Questions will continue to shape this world long after we are gone. That's the beauty of curiosity, it's endless." A drone hovered nearby, adjusting its lights in a subtle mimic of her movements. The city itself seemed to respond, a living network of motion, energy, and reflection. The patterns weren't just machines following commands, they were conversations, ripples of thought and possibility that reached into every corner of human experience. Elon exhaled slowly, letting the enormity of it sink in. "And we will keep asking?" She nodded. "Always. Questions are the pulse of progress, the bridge between today and tomorrow." They teach us, guide us, and remind us that the journey never truly ends. Above, the sky deepened into a soft indigo, streaked with hints of storm gold, as if the universe itself were listening. Rain began to fall lightly, tapping metal, glass, and pavement in gentle, rhythmic insistence. She raised her hand, and a nearby drone mirrored her gesture, lights pulsing in perfect harmony with the city's quiet heartbeat. Every question, every answer, every ripple. It all matters, she said softly, her voice carrying across the deck. And as long as we ask, the world evolves. Humanity and intelligence grow together, and the future remains alive with possibility. Elon looked out at the city, the hum of drones, the shifting patterns of light, and the gentle pulse of life below. He realized that the journey they had begun with a single question had become something far greater, an infinite dialogue, a legacy that would continue beyond their time. The girl turned back to him, eyes bright with certainty. And we never stop asking. That's the heart of it. That's the story. That's the world moving forward. Combination store, we're checked, talked bases. We have all, take say, that's the heart, we're checked bases. The city, the drones, the rain, the people, they all pulsed as one, in subtle, unending rhythm. Questions would continue to ripple, answers would continue to unfold, and the journey would stretch into infinity. And she would never stop asking.